Hi, I'm Eden, 32 years old, sitting at my parents' polished table. I grip my water glass tighter, knuckles whitening in the chandelier light. Marissa leans back, smiling like this is casual. So, next week I'll be moving into your place. My father beams, popping champagne I never knew we owned. Crystal flutes clink, china gleams. The table set like it's Christmas. But this isn't celebration. It's an ambush. 3 days ago I found boxes labeled Marissa's winter clothes. When I asked, she brushed it off. Now the truth sits at the head of the table, sipping champagne. My parents nod, pleased, like my life is theirs to rearrange. I set my glass down, fury steadying my hand. I reach for the envelope in my purse. Actually, I say, my voice calm but sharp, I have news too. What I placed on that table would shatter everything. Before we continue, if you love these stories, please subscribe to our channel, because that is our motivation to make better and better stories each day for you. And now let us know where you are listening in the comment before we start. The boxes in my garage weren't the first betrayal. They were just the latest reminder of my place. 3 months earlier, I'd confronted my parents about paying Marissa's rent. Your sister is going through a rough patch. Mom waved me off. That's what family does. We help each other. But somehow family never included helping me when I struggled. When bills piled up from my own house repairs, silence filled the line. When I needed encouragement, what I got instead were labels. Difficult, selfish, uncaring. Each word stuck like thorns under my skin. At 15, I worked weekends, saving for college in a glass jar. Marissa dipped into it for new clothes and concert tickets. When I protested, Dad sighed. Don't be petty. She needs it more. I swallowed the sting, promising myself I'd earn it back later. At 21, I signed my first lease alone without help. Meanwhile, Marissa lived rent-free in Mom and Dad's guest room. Every time I visited, they told me she just needed more time. Even last week, before dinner, I overheard Mom on the phone. Eden is so lonely in that big house, she told Aunt Sarah. She needs her sister's company. It's perfect timing. Her words weren't meant for me, but they cut anyway. Lonely. That's what they reduced me to. An empty space waiting to be filled. I still remember graduation day, standing in my cap and gown. Dad barely clapped before turning to gush over Marissa's latest trophy. The cameras followed her smile while my moment faded into background noise. That sting never left me. It never mattered that I built a life on discipline and sacrifice. To them, I was the sturdy one, the unshakable one, the giver. And Marissa? She was the fragile one, the chosen one, the receiver. That imbalance wasn't love. It was quiet erosion, year after year, disguised as family duty. And I finally felt the cracks widening beneath me. What I didn't know was how fast those cracks would split open. The silence after that dinner didn't last long. By the next morning, the phone started ringing. First Aunt Sarah, her voice dripping with concern. Eden, honey, is it true you sold your house out of spite? I nearly dropped my coffee mug. Spite? That's the story now. Marissa had been crying to anyone who would listen. By lunchtime, Uncle Robert called, then Cousin Jennifer, then Dad's golf buddy Chuck. Each repeated the same line. Marissa homeless, me heartless. By evening, I made the mistake of checking Facebook. There it was. Marissa's post. A glossy photo of her face streaked with tears. The hardest lesson, she wrote, is learning who has your back when life gets hard. Family should be forever, not just when it's convenient. 27 comments poured in. Mom's reply sat at the top. We're here for you, sweetheart. Always. I chopped vegetables with more force than necessary, the knife cracking through carrots like bone. At work, even Lisa, my colleague, pulled me aside. She told me you kicked her out. If you need help finding her housing, my church has a program. The lie spread faster than I could breathe. But I didn't argue. I documented every bill, every repair, every sleepless night. I stacked invoices for the roof replacement, the broken water line, the failed heating system. I saved texts, emails, and even screenshots of Marissa's posts. Paper shields against family fiction. At midnight, I sat alone at my kitchen table. The house smelled of packing tape and old cardboard. 9 years of savings and sacrifice reduced to stacks of boxes. Tears burned my eyes, but I pressed them back. I refused to let them see me cry. Then, slowly, something shifted. Help arrived from places I hadn't expected. Dorothy knocked one evening with Thai food and wine. You're not crazy, she whispered, wrapping a crystal vase in newspaper. I've watched this pattern for years. You're right to end it. Barbara, my financial advisor, sent me a late-night email. Selling now protects you. Don't let them twist the story. Thomas, a colleague, texted, Need a truck for moving? Just say when. They weren't blood, but they believed me. They asked what I needed, not what I could give. For the first time, I felt less alone. Not free, not yet, but steadier. Because this time, I wasn't walking into the storm empty-handed. And then came the family meeting I'll never forget. Tuesday evening arrived like a storm I couldn't avoid. 7 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, they stood there like an army. My parents, Marissa, Aunt Sarah, Uncle William, Cousin Jennifer. A firing squad dressed as family. I led them to the dining table. The same table where Marissa had once announced her move. This time I stood at the head. A manila folder rested in my hands. No shaking now, no hiding. Before anyone speaks, I said, you need to see something. I spread out the papers. Roof replacement, 11,200. Waterline repair, 8,200. Heating system replacement, 5,000. Each invoice slid into the center like evidence at a trial. My parents' smiles faltered. Aunt Sarah adjusted her glasses. Uncle William leaned closer, frowning at the totals. For once, Marissa was silent. I held their eyes, steady in a way I'd never managed before. My emergency fund is gone. My advisor told me selling was safer than drowning later. This isn't spite. This is survival. Marissa shoved her chair back, voice sharp. You've always been good with numbers. This is creative accounting. You're just trying to escape family duty. Her words cracked the air like a whip. But something shifted. Uncle William turned to her instead of me. Marissa, what's your current job situation? Last I heard, you were between positions. Marissa stammered. I'm exploring opportunities. The market's complicated. It sounded flimsy even to her. Mom jumped in, desperate. Family duty exists regardless of finances. Eden's house always had extra space. But Aunt Sarah surprised me. Why can't Marissa stay with you and Roger? You just redecorated the guest room. The room turned. Questions ricocheted around the table. Not all aimed at me anymore. Dorothy, sitting quietly near the window, spoke up. I've known this family 20 years. I've watched Eden work alone. I've watched Marissa get bailed out again and again. Barbara added, crisp and calm. Enabling isn't love. It harms both giver and receiver. Dependency isn't care. It's a cage. For the first time, the mythology cracked. The script faltered. And in that pause, I felt something strange. Not victory, but possibility. I scanned their faces in the silence. Dad's jaw tightened, the same jaw I'd once searched for approval. Mom twisted her wedding ring, eyes flicking between me and Marissa, as if she could will the room back into balance. Jennifer, my cousin, stared down at her lap, clearly realizing this wasn't the one-sided story she'd been told. For once, the spotlight shifted off me, and I watched them squirm beneath its weight. But my parents weren't ready to let go of control. The knock came again 3 nights later. This time, only my parents and Marissa stood on the porch. No extended family, no witnesses, just the core of the storm. They filed into my half-packed living room, settling themselves on the couch like honored guests. I remained standing, arms folded, the power shift obvious in the silence. Eden, Mom began, her voice carrying that brittle cheerfulness she used when things were breaking. We've been talking. We think we've found a compromise. Dad nodded quickly, eyes flicking to Marissa. Instead of her moving in with you, maybe you could help her get her own place. A little loan, just to get her started. With your success, it would hardly affect you. Marissa clasped her hands together, theatrical gratitude written across her face. Some people just have bad luck, you know. You've always been the lucky one. The implication hung heavy. I owed her because I'd managed to survive. I walked to the dining table, picked up a crisp letter from my lender, and laid it in front of them. This is my pre-approval for a townhouse downtown, 40% less than my current mortgage. Selling this house isn't about spite. It's about survival and rebuilding my savings. Dad scanned the numbers, lips pressed tight. Mom tried again, her voice softening. Family has always stuck together. If you can't help your sister, you're cutting yourself off from us. I didn't flinch. Instead, I pulled a business card from my pocket, setting it on the table in front of Marissa. Our marketing department has an entry-level position. The salary would cover a 1-bedroom. I already spoke to HR. They'll interview you if you want it. Her mouth opened, then closed. For once, no sharp comeback came. But I wasn't finished. I reached for the manila folder again, this time producing a spreadsheet. I slid it across the coffee table. Every rent check, every car payment, every bailout you've given Marissa the past 5 years. The total is circled at the bottom. Mom gasped when she saw the number. Dad looked away, jaw tightening again. This isn't love, I said quietly. It's dependence, and it's hurting all of us. Silence settled, thicker than any argument. For the first time, no one accused me of cruelty. No one called me selfish. They only stared at the proof laid bare. And in that silence, I realized the control they held was finally broken. 3 weeks later, I closed the door on my old house. 9 years of memories packed into cardboard, and 1 month of rent back behind me. The keys rested heavy in my palm. But this time the weight felt like freedom. My new townhouse wasn't grand, but sunlight poured through wide windows, catching on hardwood floors that smelled of new beginnings. The mortgage bill glowed green in my budgeting app, 30% less than before. For the first time in years, I breathed without panic tightening my chest. On the kitchen island sat my newest purchase, a professional-grade camera. Tomorrow, my first photography class. A chance not just to survive, but to create. Sunday dinner at my parents' looked different too. Dad asked about my course without comparing me to Marissa. Mom listened, really listened, instead of turning every question into a lecture. And Marissa? She slid a business card across the table. Her first as a marketing coordinator, not charity. Her own. Later, I hosted my own gathering in the townhouse. Dorothy raised her glass. Barbara smiled. Thomas leaned back with pride. To homes that shelter us, Dorothy toasted. And boundaries that protect us. The words filled my chest with something steadier than joy. It was peace. I looked at the framed photo on my shelf. Me at 23, clutching the first house keys. Beside it, a new photo. Me holding the townhouse keys with a different smile. Not naive pride, but earned resilience. 2 beginnings. 2 women. I've learned that helping family doesn't mean erasing yourself. Boundaries are not betrayal. Sometimes they're the only way love can survive. If you've ever chosen yourself over family expectations, share your story below. And if this story touched your heart, please give it a like. And share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Don't forget to subscribe for more true family betrayal stories that remind us we are stronger than we think.